and welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama review. In today's review I'm going to be taking a look at one of the final releases of the Doctor Who Big Finish monthly range of 2020. This time round to the 6th Doctor story, The Plight of the Pimpernel, as written by Chris Chapman. This episode stars Colin Baker as the good old 6th Doctor, alongside Nicola Bryant as Perry. This is in fact a standalone story and doesn't belong as a part of a trilogy or anything like that. The physical CD is available to be ordered now on the Big Finish website. The recommended retail price is £14.99 and the download is £12.99. There is also an additional synopsis on the Big Finish website, as well as a trailer that you can of course listen to. Now, very much like how the Big Finish monthly range does of course work in order to have the same amount of releases every single year, December does once again see the release of 2 monthly range stories, the first of which being this one, and of course the second being The Grey Man on the Mountain, featuring Ace, the 7th Doctor, as well as the Brigadier. So once again it is lovely to have 2 stories to end out the year. Of course, as I mentioned in some of my previous reviews, I have been really bloody busy recently, to put it quite bluntly, and as a result, yes, I've not taken a look at Shadow of the Daleks as of yet. I do hope to come around to that at some point in the future. However, I decided, as opposed to having more on my backlog, I decided to basically continue with the latest releases, and I'll hopefully come back to Shadow of the Daleks at some point, because one of the brilliant incentives about these 2 releases for December is that they are standalone stories, and as a result perfect for new Big Finish listeners, and possibly even perfect to add onto your Christmas list. So taking a look at the production credits on the Big Finish website, we have lots of talented people working on this release. Of course, this episode has been recorded remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so once again an excellent shout out to the Sound House who managed to put this story together and make it sound like it has been recorded within the studio. We have the cover artist, which is Tom Newson, absolutely glorious cover art for this release. The director is John Ainsworth, the music Andy Hardwick, the producer also John Ainsworth, as well as the script editor. The sound design is Andy Hardwick. The episode has been written by Chris Chapman, and the senior producer is David Richardson, with the executive producers being Nicholas Briggs and Jason Haig-Ellery. Of course, previously, earlier on this year, we had a rather brilliant box set entitled The 6th Doctor and Perry, Volume 1, and of course this year we've seen lots of lovely stories of the 6th Doctor and Perry, and this episode is certainly one of those. If you're a fan of the TV variation of the 6th Doctor, and basically that dynamic between the 6th Doctor and Perry, this is without a doubt certainly a release for you, because ever so slight references within this story to basically how the 6th Doctor once was within the TV show, and the rather brilliant stuff that Big Finish have managed to do with the 6th Doctor within the audio drama format. And as always, Colin Baker gives an absolutely excellent performance throughout this story. I think that is solely down to 2 things. One, that Colin Baker is an absolutely incredible actor, and it's without a doubt very clear that he adores the 6th Doctor, but also at the same time Chris Chapman, who has already penned Scorched Earth for this year, which was of course a World War story featuring Flip and Constance Clark. That was also a very powerful script, and it's very clear that Chris Chapman knows how to write the 6th Doctor very, very well, as this is once again another very strong story. The original idea was in fact something that was asked by Colin Baker, because we were talking about a story that he would like to do as a 6th Doctor, and he came up with the idea for the Pimpernel from, of course, the Reign of Terror within the French Revolution. And as a result, Chris Chapman created this story, and it is very clear that the cast really enjoyed creating this episode, because all of the characters really leap off the page, and lots of varied roles, but also a rather excellent set of production, because the many different scenes that we see, we hop from rather striking different locations throughout this story, including a rather grim variation of France. Then we have an English manor house in there as well, but also a little bit of a spoiler, basically nuclear fallout alien world towards the later end of this story to wrap up the episode. So we have some rather lovely and stark changes within location, kind of testing all the different bases for a sci-fi Doctor Who story. Now, another one of the reasons why I was really looking forward to this story is because I absolutely love the 1st Doctor pure historical episode, The Reign of Terror, and of course this episode is set around a very similar period, and I was quite curious to see how they were going to do it. Of course, we've already had an incarnation of the Doctor interacting with this time period, getting rather involved within that situation, and then likewise throughout this story we have the 6th Doctor getting involved almost on another fictional level, making this episode a rather stark difference between that of The Reign of Terror, because The Reign of Terror is a pure historical story, very much focused around human interaction and the grimness of the period. And this time around we have Plight of the Pimpernel, which is a little bit of fictional fairy tale alien world extravaganza fun. We see somebody kind of running from their past and basically wanting to receive counselling, however not really in one of the most conventional ways. And we see the Sixth Doctor and his relationship with other people being challenged very much throughout this episode, because he gets excited by the situation that he finds himself within. This whole idea of a hero being the Pimpernel, of course going to France and being able to save people from execution. It's a main act of heroism. However, the Doctor kind of gets blown into the situation and not really realises what he's getting himself into, and as a result that creates some rather excellent scenes within the final part of this story, again basically showing how incredible the Sixth Doctor is within the audio drama format. So as I mentioned throughout quite a lot of my Sixth Doctor reviews, if you are looking for a Sixth Doctor story to show off the Sixth Doctor's strengths, this is definitely an episode for you. So the first character credit that I'm going to give for this review, with the exception of Nicola Bryant and Colin Baker, is we have Jamie Parker as Sir Percy. Now basically Sir Percy is an English gentleman who has his own manor house with lots of servants and meals and extravagant halls. However, at the same time he has a little bit of an alter ego, and is that of the Pimpernel, which for those of you that do not know, which was myself prior to listening to this story, basically the Pimpernel is this heroic figure that used to go to France within the French Revolution and basically save people from their deaths. And as a result we have some rather lovely yet grim storytelling throughout the early half of this episode, where we have lots of different executions taking place. In fact, the first scene of this story pretty much instantly introduces you to the slice of the guillotine blade as it smacks down onto somebody's neck, which must admit it is a very grim and haunting sound, rather excellently recreated within the audio drama format. And there's some lovely visual text that is also used throughout this story, where you have one of the executioners saying people just want to applaud to see your head roll into the basket and stuff like that. It's all a very grim, horrible historical situation, which if you want to see more of that, check out the First Doctor story of the Reign of Terror, because this episode focuses solely on the Pimpernel. We have the Pimpernel coming into the situation, saving people from their deaths, and as a result we have the Sixth Doctor kind of hopping into the Pimpernel's shoes, as well as possibly a few other characters in there as well. It's kind of a little bit like somebody strutting into a TV show and playing their favourite character. So naturally at this point we have a few fourth wall breaking moments, because we have lots of parallels between the Pimpernel's character and the Doctor, of course also being a hero figure in many extent. I suppose in a way Percy, especially within the early half of this story, and I stress the early half of this story, is very much like a Doctor Who fan, kind of wanting to play the Doctor within the school field and kind of act like the hero of the piece, and he's going to save the day. As we lead into the later half of this story, Jamie Parker does an excellent job of padding out this character even further, because we get to see a few extra levels of his character exposed in his personality and basically why he wants to become the Pimpernel. And I think that that was an interesting move, because he'd gone from having a pure historical with lots of lovely period pieces to kind of this episode being flung into a very spacey sci-fi episode. So if you are a fan of stories that kind of blend alien worlds and historical, again this is probably an episode that is worth considering. Of course, what Doctor Who story with sci-fi and futuristic stuff isn't complete without an android that's called Z22, and basically he is on the search for the Pimpernel, because the Pimpernel has done bad things. The android is a little bit confused, especially when the Pimpernel is in fact multiple people at once, including Percy, including the Doctor, and possibly a few others. So yes, it's a rather fun thing that kind of is intertwined throughout the entirety of this story, especially within the later half. And I like the whole revelations of the android, and especially the relationship between the future of the human race and androids, and basically that stress and pressure groups of what happens if we rely on androids, what truly can androids do, and of course that all-important scary concept that Black Mirror absolutely adores, what happens if the androids gain sentience, take over, and basically destroy all of the humans. So again, that was a theme that I really didn't expect throughout this story, I must admit. I was kind of expecting a historical episode set entirely within France, and then maybe an odd alien being thrown into the mix as well, possibly, I don't know, pretending to be an executioner or something like that. I certainly didn't expect a story on this level that in fact encompasses both France, England, as well as outer space, because it's got a little bit for everyone. I really do like that. Something that I also really didn't expect throughout this story is a focus on Perry, because we have kind of a development within her character where we get to see her caring for the Doctor on a level that I don't think I've quite seen within a classic Doctor Who story, or at least it's very rare to see it, because it is very evident that the relationship between the Sixth Doctor and Perry, yes, has been rocky at times. At this point within the timeline, it is very strong indeed, and at the very later half of this story, without spoiling the episode overall, basically we get to see Perry standing up for the Sixth Doctor and basically saying, "Don't you dare upset my best friend," and I really love that. It's a theme that is used throughout part 4, and it shows the strengths of this TARDIS team, and it is clear that even though the Sixth Doctor is this Doctor that is very bold, he loves himself pretty much, and he wears these amazing clothes, even though he's very powerful and has a very large ego, he still needs his best friend by his side. He clearly thinks a lot of Perry, and this episode really represents that. And once again, as it is mentioned throughout the behind the scenes, it is clear that Nicola Bryant really enjoyed this story because she has lots of great scenes. I think that once again, Chris Chapman is to credit for that, as well as Nicola Bryant's excellent performance. The whole narrative of this story could have very easily fell into a rather regular Doctor Who format category, because we have a historical setting, the Doctor and Perry landing in this situation, and basically somebody who is a fictional character created by Baroness Oxley isn't in fact a fictional character and does in fact exist. It's like Robin Hood within that 12th Doctor story and a number of other historical episodes as well. And at the very start I did think, oh, is this going to go down this kind of route? What I like is Chris Chapman, once again, along a very similar complement in fact to that of Scorched Earth, is gone and got a rather admittedly basic idea, however added extra levels to the script. I think that Scorched Earth was a lovely human piece about interactions between these people within the war effort, and then we had the whole concept of the fire alien throughout that story. I'm thinking back now a number of months to that episode. The main thing that drove that story forward was the TARDIS team and the characters, and basically the reaction of Constance Clark to the situation being of course a Wren from the World Wars, and that was something that added an extra level to the script. This time round, again, we have a similar concept, however the thing that brings this story to that extra level is the war-torn alien landscape that we see within the later half of the episode, seeing a world affected by nuclear fallout. I think it's no spoiler, well it is a little bit of a spoiler admittedly to say that the TARDIS team and a number of others are walking around this alien world, and Perry realises that they are basically in a school playground and there is a swing, and kind of we don't really meet anybody from this world. It's desolate, everybody has died, they're in a very desperate and grim situation, and as a result we have lots of emotions being dragged to the very top of the scene, in particular that of the Sixth Doctor, who realises, to put it very politely, that he's screwed up rather big time, and as a result again we see some excellent lines from the Sixth Doctor highlighting how brilliantly strong Colin Baker is as an actor. So yes, I'm going to shut up now because I'm going to reveal the entirety of the plot, but this is another one of those stories, and I'm aware that when it comes to Sixth Doctor episodes I really do try to be neutral, and I really do try to approach this story as I would with a Fifth Doctor episode or an Eighth Doctor story. However, I'm going to be blunt, I think there is honestly something about the Sixth Doctor. He can carry a script, he can carry a classic adventure, especially within the monthly range format. He's a Doctor that is captivating and so easy to listen to within an audio, which I'm not saying the other Doctors are more difficult to listen to or anything like that, but there's something about the Sixth Doctor that you can listen to with ease, and as a result really enjoy the story, enjoy the journey that you go on with the characters, and yes, this is another one that I really do recommend. It is incredible, and it is possibly one of the strongest Big Finish monthly range stories for this year. So without a doubt, if you are a fan of the Sixth Doctor and Perry, for example, if you've listened to the previous Sixth Doctor and Perry stories from the monthly range, or maybe even have listened to the Sixth Doctor and Perry box set that was released in the early half of this year, I definitely recommend this story. But I also recommend this episode to those of you that want to listen to a new Big Finish story that doesn't rely on any previous stories to kind of draw the narrative forward. There's no plot arcs or anything like that, and it is great to have stories the likes of this that are perfect for beginners, and I imagine that as the Doctor Who main range ends in 2021, we're going to see a lot more of these stories, and to be honest, I can't wait to see what is next for the Sixth Doctor and Perry. So there we go, that is my review of The Plight of the Pimpernel as written by Chris Chapman. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you've listened to this episode, why not leave a mini little review in the comments section below. I'm trying to keep it spoiler free for those of you that haven't listened to this episode, but do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who content each and every week, as well as of course regular Big Finish audio drama reviews. And of course on that note, I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.